YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Meghan has struck again. She has struck with a staged Californian outing, wearing an extremely heavy coat, a thick woolen hat, and a pair of winter-like boots in the hot Californian weather in order to get attention. Before I actually get into the Daily Mail article, which goes into the intricate details of this obviously staged pap walk, I'm going to read out some of the people's comments on the newspaper article because they really do summarize my sentiment, and I'm sure they will also summarize yours. So the first comment that I picked out, which has the most upvotes: she's clearly not undercover. She's called the paps to get attention, seeing as she hasn't had any on here for a while. Now let me just stop there. She hasn't really had much attention, and Kate has been extremely proactive over here, getting on with her real duties. She had that Christmas event which she organised in London, and it was a roaring success. Meghan Markle, on the other hand, did do that train wreck Ellen interview, which just adds to all of the other terrible interviews that she has done thus far this year, and it wasn't a good look, and she did not really get any positive PR from it. So of course she's out yet again to steal the limelight. Another thing that I also wanted to get into before I go any further with these comments is that Doria noticeably hasn't been seen with Meghan for over 6 months now. Doria never really had a good relationship with Meghan, and that was demonstrated by her attendance at her wedding. Who would let their mother sit there and watch them get married on centre stage with all of those cameras flashing and photographers watching and the whole world watching on her own in a pew with absolutely no company whatsoever? It must have been one of the most uncomfortable experiences of her entire life, and it can't really be redone again. I personally would have wanted my mother to have company, be it my father, even if they wasn't together, or a friend or someone at least. I mean, she just sat there all on her own, which was just quite tragic, and she looked very tearful for all the wrong reasons. Not because she was moved that her daughter was marrying a prince, but because she was on her own. Cameras were flashing. The dysfunction of their family was pretty much on centre stage. Meghan made no attempt to hide it, and now she has been kicked out of the fold. And I wanted to get into that because there's something that I actually read on a blog about Doria actually begging to get back into Meghan's good books in order to be a part of her grandchildren's life. And they now don't have grandparents on either side, which is pretty sad. So the next comment is, you mean she called the paps because no one would have recognised her otherwise with the face mask and a beanie on? Another person has said, it's strange how whenever she goes out incognito, there is always a photographer around. It's almost like they are paid to be there. Another person said, she tipped off the paps because she was completely unrecognisable and extremely covered. Kind of like when she went on a walk in the middle of the Canadian wilderness and she just happened to know where the paparazzi were to flash them a grin, which she did with baby Archie, and we all saw it. She was holding this extremely large baby and she had him in a sling on the front of her chest. Then she kind of had a grasp of the leads of her dogs, and it was just all very much unnatural and extremely staged, and it did not look organic in any way, shape or form. And of course, we know this is Meghan, it wasn't. The person has continued on to say, not a big deal, many celebrities do it, but they don't try to destroy their family by demanding privacy when they actually mean no such thing. Another comment is, drawing massive attention to herself dressed like that and obviously set up the shots, otherwise her bodyguard would have been blocking the photographers. How ridiculous. Another person said, I've actually really enjoyed the last week or two that she and her loser hubby haven't been plastered all over our pages. Please can we keep it that way? Thank you. Another person has said, interest is dying out for the Markles. She had to do something to create interest in herself again. Also, as if on cue, Catherine had been getting very good publicity for her patronages, and Meghan had to try and one-up her. Another comment is, it was a crisp 55 degrees and clear with no clouds in the sky. Who wrote this? Laughing my ass off. Meggy Weggy or her Sunshine Sacks. You don't get pap shops that clear without it all being staged. Someone's being a desperado yet again. Another comment, oh look, who's starting to realise that in the US, she and her husband, who is a eunuch, are just another couple of D-listers fighting for a place under the sun and a paycheck, and she's not even remotely as interesting as she thought she was. She dressed up knowing almost everyone else dressed down. She has obviously disguised her head with a mask, hat and glasses, and yet perhaps are taking pictures of her. She either called them or made sure one of the stores she was in called them. And is she trying to tell us that the entire time she's lived in Montecito, she has never gone shopping? And if she did go shopping, no perhaps people or store owners knew who she was and snapped pics on their phone. I think that she's jealous of all the positive publicity that Catherine has been given in the last month, and she needs to push herself to the front and centre again and again and again and yet again. So those were all of the comments that I picked out. They were the top rated ones, and I think that they're extremely accurate. They've kind of given me an idea for titles, or at least a title for this specific video. Because where do you really take this, and where else can I really take this? I think it pretty much summarizes it. I'm going to get into a few of the minute details of what exactly she was wearing and blah blah blah, but I think you guys all understand where this is headed. This is an act of jealousy. This is an act of resentment. She hasn't been able to turn it around. She's still trying to pass herself off as this really relatable, grounded, likable, down-to-earth, casual person who is trying to lead this private life, who's accidentally getting papped. And of course, every time the royal family seems to step up their game, they seem to be getting a lot of positive PR and press, Meghan Markle pulls off these stunts, like the time when in the throes of mourning Prince Philip, and immediately after the funeral, which she didn't attend due to being pregnant, allegedly, and I say allegedly because we're not even clear on whether she had a surrogate or not, she pulled off this pap walk, and she continually does pull off these pap walks in order to keep her name in lights. I guess she wouldn't feel as though she's ending the year right if she wasn't pulling off some kind of PR stunt outside of all of her planned projects that I'm sure she has scheduled for January. I'll be back with another video. Bye guys.